Hello. This morning, the Emory Sport Organization, ASO, announced the route for the 2011 Tour de France. Upon first look at the route, this appears to be a route that only the climbers need to bother showing up to, as there are a mere 6 high mountain stages, as well as 3 other medium mountain stages, and a time trial which also includes some climbing. For 2 of the flat stages, they also finish uphill, so this appears to be a climber's route. This is going to be a fairly brief overview of the race since all the stage profiles and details have not yet been released for the stage. Of note that one key point is that there is no prologue this year, and no individual time trial to start the race. Instead, we will be starting with a regular road stage, similar to how we did in 2008, which Alejandro Valverde, who is currently serving a suspension for his involvement in Operation Puerto, ran. The first stage will begin just after the Passage du Gois, which was famous for the accident in 1999, and it will finish on a shallow climb up the Mont des Alouettes, and if my French pronunciations are pathetic, please forgive me. This is not a very steep climb, only I believe the last kilometer is steep, so I would not expect major time gaps. However, the sprinters probably will not contend for the stage win. Stage 2 is the team time trial. This year it is only 23 kilometers. It was 39 kilometers 2 years ago. This is much shorter than the team time trials of about 10 years ago, where they were averaging about 60 kilometers. So the time gap should be in the seconds instead of minutes. Stage 3 is a flat stage, could have some wind involved. Stage 4 is another general classification stage, finishes at the Mur de Bretagne, and this, I believe that the climb averages about 8.5% gradient over about 1.5 kilometers. Therefore, this will have some impact in the general classification. However, again, it will be in terms of seconds. Probably see similar time gaps to what we see at the end of La Flèche Wallonne. Few more flat stages coming up for stages 5, 6, and 7. Only wind would cause any GC shakeups. And then we go to stage 8, which is a medium mountain stage finishing at Superbès. They finished at Superbès in 2008. However, they're not using the same climb as they did that year. Instead, this looks more like the short 1996 version, as they climbed the Col de la Croix Saint-Robert a few kilometers before the ascent to Superbès, which is a pretty short climb. So with that in mind, we should not have, again, this will be time gaps in terms of seconds, not minutes. The next stage, stage 9, is another stage to the Massif Central. It on paper looks harder. However, this appears to be more of a breakaway stage, as the major climbs, Le Puy-Marie, Col de Pertu, and the Plum du Cantal, are all well away from the finish line, with the finish in Saint-Flour just up a very small climb, less than a kilometer, about 6% gradient. Probably going to see a breakaway stage. Had a similar stage to this in 2004, which Richard Virenque won in a long breakaway. After this stage, we have a couple of flat stages, and then we head down to the Pyrenees. And the Pyrenees this year, these are a proper Pyrenees. These are cruel, a violation of the riders' human rights, and exactly how the Tour de France should be raced. First stage of the Pyrenees finishes at the ski station of Les Ardèdens, and that is the third major climb of the day. We begin the day, and all the 3 climbs are in the second half of the stage. The first climb, La Horquette des Ancizans, is a brand new climb to the Tour, never been raced before. That is immediately followed by the Col du Tourmalet from the La Mongie side, followed by Les Ardèdens. This new climb appears to be harder than the Col d'Aspin, so this should be a harder stage than the one that Lance Armstrong won in 2003. One note about Les Ardèdens stages, often the major selection is on the Col du Tourmalet, and there are not major time gaps on Les Ardèdens. The next Pyrenean stage is Pau to Lourdes, and there's one major climb, that's the Col d'Aubisque. You have a couple of minor climbs, the Soulor immediately after, and there is a little climb just before Lourdes, which could mess up the breakaway. I'd expect a breakaway because this is between two mountaintop finishes, but in the event that that the GC favors comprise the breakaway, we could see a little battle just before the finish line. The next stage, very similar to the cruel Plateau de Baille stage from 2004, over the Porte d'Espée, the Col La Trappe, Col d'Agny, Porte de l'Eure, finish at Plateau de Baille. Very hard, very cruel, massive time gaps expected. However, very simple about a stage to Plateau de Baille. If you don't win there, you don't win the Tour. Very simple. The winner of Plateau de Baille has never lost the Tour de France. Now let's move on to the transition stage. There's only one transition stage between the Alps this year. It's along the Mediterranean coast to Montpellier, so there could be some wind impacts, something the riders have to watch out for. Then we go into the first alpine stage into Gap, and they climb the Col de Mans just before the finish line, and then they climb down, then they descend the Côte de la Rochette. So this could be a stage for late attack. However, given the three high alpine stages to come, I'd expect this will be another breakaway stage. Then Gap to Pinerolo in Italy. This climbs over the Sestriere, and then the finishing climb just before the finish of the Pra Martino. This is a similar run-in to that Daniele De Luca won in the 2009 Giro d'Italia. I would not expect massive time gaps, quite possibly another breakaway. And then we come to the big stage of the Tour, absolute barbaric. Never thought I'd see this again in the Tour de France. We begin with the mighty Colla dell'Agnello, climbing from Italy about 40 kilometers. The final 10, once you get past Chinel, averages about 9 to 10%. Then we have the Col de l'Izoire, immediately followed by the Col du Galibier. When they did the Agnello and Izoire in the 2007 Giro, there were no attacks on the Agnello. However, only 6 riders finished in the lead group at the top of the climb, and that's where the major selection was. So we could see time gaps. I would not be shocked to see the top 10 spread out by as much as 5 to 7 minutes in this stage. Followed by a short stage from Modane to L'Alpe d'Huez, climbing over the Galibier from the Telegraph side, and then finish at Alpe d'Huez. It's only 109 kilometers, so we could see some attacks right from the gun, maybe as soon as the Galibier, have an old-fashioned mountain stage fought out over long distances. If the race is still in doubt by then, we would have, there's a 41-kilometer time trial around Grenoble, the only individual time trial this year's Tour de France. Not one for the specialists, though, as there apparently are 2 climbs on this route, including the first part of the climb up to Chamrousse. So this may even be a quasi-mountain time trial. And then the final day, the traditional run-in into Paris. Who does this route suit? This may even suit Andy Schleck a little bit more than Contador because of the lack of time trialing. If there were a long, flat individual time trial, I'd say this route is Contador's. This is assuming he's allowed to race, which I made several other videos addressing that, so we're not going to address that again. But on this, based on paper here, Andy Schleck may even be favored over Contador. However, the only stage which might give Schleck some trouble is the stage 2 finishing at the Galibier, as there are 2 climbs over 8,500 feet, over 2,600 meters elevation, and the Agnello being the high part of the Tour. This could almost favor high mountain specialists, and Contador, one of maybe his best ever Tour de France attack, came in 1997 on the Col du Galibier at high altitude. He also did fairly well at high altitude in the 2008 Giro d'Italia as well. So that could be a trouble stage for Andy Schleck, but this could be another great battle for the Tour de France. So there we have it. We'll see what happens come 9 months from now at the 2011 Tour de France.